We have been living in our RV for over 10 weeks now, and we actually stopped to take a 1 to 2 week break to visit some friends and family. So we wanted to make this video to kind of go over the pros that we've seen from living in an RV for 10 weeks compared to now being in a house for a week, week and a half. But keep in mind for this video, this isn't our house, we're staying with other people. So the comparisons are going to be like visiting a friend or family, staying with them outside of your RV versus staying in your own space in a smaller RV for a week. The first category that we're going to be comparing today, it's just going to be general spacing of an RV versus a house, and just each room individually, like the kitchen, bathroom, bedroom, and other spaces like that. First one we're going to jump into today is the kitchen.
Kitchen makes a big difference. Right now our kitchen in our RV is just one wall of counters, which is mostly taken up by a stovetop and a small fridge that we have, and then also the sink. So really, it's just one true counter and then kind of faux counters that go off and on our sink area and our stovetop. So having a much bigger kitchen is definitely a nice feature overall. But honestly, most people we've been staying with have been cooking for us, so it's nice to have the bigger kitchen, but it hasn't really affected us a ton.
Like Haley just said, we haven't been cooking really at all, maybe 1 or 2 meals.
Yeah.
One thing we have noticed is a huge difference though, just from other people cooking, is the amount of space that gets taken up from food and from serving plates and things like that. You can make your dinner, have your dishes, set them off to the side, bring out dessert, talk for a little bit, sit down, and then do the dishes the next morning, and you can still move around. Whereas in the RV, if you don't do the dishes from one meal, you can't, there's nowhere to sit.
There's nowhere to put anything. There's nowhere to make another meal at all. So that is a big factor, actually, is the dishes, I would say.
But living in the RV has made us do our dishes right after we cook, which just kind of prevents you from having that morning chore of doing the dishes right when you wake up.
Yeah.
The second section that we're going to do today is what I'm going to assume is Haley's least favorite part of living in an RV.
Probably true.
And that is going to be the bathroom.
That is the case.
And the bathroom in our RV, collective square footage is probably 8. It is maybe like a 4x2 room for the shower, the toilet, the sink, storage, everything like that. And Haley has complained a couple times about it.
Yes, that is the section where I threw the most temper tantrums, mostly from being in the shower. And you're in this it's much smaller than a shower stall would be in a regular home. So you're constantly running into the edge, or your shampoo bottle is constantly falling down. I was quite over it. I'm used to it now. I'm probably getting spoiled at the moment living in this house though, so whenever we go back, the temper tantrums may come back around. But that was the thing that was definitely the hardest. It's just the shower itself. Everything else I was okay. We have enough cabinetry space. I don't mind the toilet. I mean, Cooper and I cannot be in the bathroom at the same time, but that's okay. Getting ready or something in the morning, that's not feasible, but that's fine. It's the shower. The shower gets me. So definitely nice to have more space in the bathroom as far as having room to breathe a little in the shower rather than constantly running into the walls.
Personally, for me, I don't mind the RV shower as much.
Which is funny because you're so much bigger than me. You would think that you would be more upset about that.
Yeah, but I've gotten pretty good with the spray, soap, turn off the water, spray on again to get all the soap off.
Every time I'm in there, something's falling.
So I think my shower time has decreased actually in the RV, and I think Haley's has, funny enough, increased.
Probably.
Not running water time, just total process time, because
I don't have enough room to move, and my hair is really curly, so it's trying to get all the knots out, and it takes me forever.
But apart from the shower, bathroom-wise, there isn't really much of a difference. The sinks are about the same size. I mean, bathroom sinks in the house are really only so big.
I'm not annoyed by anything other than the shower.
So bathroom-wise,
he was right. That was probably my biggest change.
Hasn't changed too much. It is nice to have a little more space in the bathroom, when you're getting ready, but I haven't felt too much of a change has really happened outside of the shower.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
The next room we're going to talk about is our bedroom, or sleeping space in the house versus the RV. And for me personally, I actually really like our bedroom in the RV. I think it's really cozy. And I really like our mattress and our blankets and bedspreads and everything like that. Where when you're traveling, I know we stayed at some friends' houses where they're very generous in letting us sleep there, but it's just not your mattress. So you just don't sleep as good. You're not used to the ventilation, the humidity, things like that.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely. I like our cozy little space. I mean, it's basically our queen bed and then 2 skinny little hallways or alleyways. I don't know what you would call those, right next to the bed on either side. And then little nightstand. But it's comfortable and it's cozy, and we're surrounded by windows, and I think that's really nice to wake up to in the morning, and makes a big difference having your mattress and all the stuff that you chose that feels like your space. The one thing I will say, I don't know if we mentioned this before, but I work full-time as an interior designer, so I really love having pillows on the bed and a pretty bedspread and all this stuff. And we probably, I will admit, but I'm not revoking them, we probably will have too many pillows in the RV than we should have, because, like, on our bed in particular, because whenever you wake up in the morning, like, the bedroom looks nuts, because I have 3 decorative pillows, which he graciously is okay with. I was only allotted 3 whenever we got married. There was a limit. And so they're, like, all on the floor, and you have nowhere to walk, and you're, like, stepping on them, and you're trying not to fall into the walls. So do we have too many for an RV? Yes. Are we getting rid of any of them? No.
Not yet.
So I don't miss that necessarily, in the sense of they're just constantly in your way whenever their bed's not made. But they're pretty, and I like them, so they stay.
And I've also gotten accustomed to, like, storage-wise, in our bedroom, we have cabinets on the side and then on top, which I thought I was going to be really annoyed with when we first moved in, and it took a week or 2 to adjust.
I hit my head on them a couple times.
But honestly, now it's really convenient because I can get a shirt, shorts, socks, anything I need, hat, all was sitting in the same spot.
That's true.
I don't have to move anything, and it's not, like, always the most convenient, but we have a system and it works for me, and I think it works for you too.
That is nice. Yeah.
So it's a little easier than living out of a suitcase where you need to unpack everything to find a pair of socks.
Very much so.
Then it's all before, and then throw it all back in.
Right.
The last section of the RV we're going to be going over is the last room, really. Kind of combined with the kitchen is just your general living space, like your dining room, your table, just in general.
I actually don't really notice much of a difference. The house we're in is not enormous. I mean, there's a couch and a love seat, but it doesn't have, like, this crazy big living room. So I miss our living room in our RV. It feels like enough space. With the slide out in, it is a little tight if you were living that way full time, but I mean, we have the slide out all the time other than when we're driving, so it's plenty of space. Every time we, like, show people when we open the slide out, they're like, oh wow, this is enough space to live, and we're like, we know. So
but we probably had a little easier time adjusting from apartment to the RV.
That's true.
Because our apartment was a single bed apartment that was maybe 600 square feet, including bedroom, bathroom, living room, everything like that. So we weren't going from a house to an RV. We were going from a smaller apartment to the RV.
And it's just the 2 of us, so you don't necessarily need, like, I mean, we have the extra chairs because of the passenger driver seats, but you don't really need, like, extra seating. No,
and like I said, it is just the 2 of us. We had her parents over one time, which was great, but after about an hour or 2, you kind of get that sense that, okay, there's not a lot of space in here, and if there was 4 of us living in here, it would be very tight.
It would feel a little bit tighter.
We'd be on top of each other, but like I said, it was only the 2 of us, so, and when you're in a big living room anyways, and there's only 2 of you,
you kind of feel like you've got too much space, actually.
Yeah, you sit on one end of the couch or something like that, which we can do in the RV anyway. So living room wise hasn't really been that much different for me.
No, yeah, I miss our living room and our dining room area. That's a good setup.
The next category we're going to go into is kind of like spacing a room, but not really. It's going to be overall storage in the RV compared to a house. And same thing, we haven't done a ton of cooking here. Yeah. We've done more of just visiting. We haven't done a ton of living in the houses, if that makes sense. But I have noticed some storage differences in a house versus an RV. Like the few times we have cooked, you need to grab a pot, you just open a cabinet and take out the pot you need.
Right,
and that's it. Where in the RV, you need to open it, take out
something in front of it, and then
take out a bag of chips, then a pot, then a pan, and then you can get your pot out and you have to slide it all back in.
That's
and then
true. That does happen with one of our cabinets in particular, with the one that has all the appliances and the pots and pans. That one gets a little full, I guess would be the best way to say it. The pantry gets kind of cluttered too.
Yeah.
We still have to figure out how to organize that. Mostly I don't think I noticed that big video, but then again, I have noticed that our RV has a lot of storage.
It does.
I mean, it has a ton of exterior storage. It has a lot of interior storage. It's a Winnebago. I don't know if that's a feature of that particular brand, but all the other RVs and trailers we've seen, or at least most of them that we've seen at other RV parks, like very, very little exterior storage. I can't speak to what the inside looks like, but I've noticed we were very lucky to have as much storage as we do. So if we had as much as some of those other trailers had, it would be much more complicated.
Yeah, and one other thing to note too, with us traveling, visiting different people, storage is almost harder sometimes. Like we said earlier, like for clothing, you have to
You're just
unpack everything,
tiny little suitcase.
or like we're driving other people's cars, which is very generous of them, but then like you don't want to leave anything in their car.
Yeah.
So you load up for the day, and then when you get back, you have to unload. Whereas in our RV, in our car, everything has a spot.
Yeah.
We know where it is. If we're going hiking, we say, all right, grab the hiking backpacks, and you just know everything's in there.
Yeah.
And you put them in the car. So I think
That's
that just has more to do with being in someone else's house and space versus being in your own.
Right.
The next category we're going to do is general driving and travel. When you're in a house, you kind of stay in one spot, and when you're in an RV, obviously you're traveling a lot more. For the RV, for instance, for our first week, we drove every single day for 2 to 3 hours, which was a little much after the third or fourth day.
And that's not our normal schedule.
No, now we have kind of the last month or so, we've fallen into staying in a place for 2 weeks, but they're really unique places we haven't been to before. We're staying at places where we've been.
Yeah.
So the excitement of being in the area isn't as high. I mean, you're in a new place, in a national park. You're like, I want to go see everything. Right. And now we're visiting family. So now it's more about the people you're with instead of the places you go to visit.
The draw to come here was different. Don't get me wrong, we're in a beautiful area, so that's great. But yeah, the motivation to come was different. And so we are just doing different things. Like normally in our regular schedule, we're going out and doing something in the morning before work or after work, something like that. And then here, just kind of sitting around visiting, doing a couple activities, but much more minimal in that sense. We're not doing near as much driving, which in some sense is nice. We're doing a lot of driving in the previous place we were, so it's nice to not be driving a few hours every day, but I do like going to see new places and new things and doing more activities. We're pretty active people. So that's a big change from our schedule. And as much as I'm loving visiting people that we're with, absolutely, I will be excited to go be doing activities and things like that as well.
Yeah, and then also just with the traveling days with RV where you need to pack everything up and drive somewhere, I've grown to actually really enjoy driving the RV.
He loves driving. He loves driving, going to somewhere new. He's always really excited about it.
It's just fun to drive, and like you get in the RV and you start driving, you're like, we're gonna go somewhere we've never been before.
That's true.
And I just really like that feeling, and the travel days are more work than every other day, but I think they're totally worth it. And so I kind of miss that aspect. I'm really looking forward to when we get back, we're gonna continue exploring new areas. And so I can't wait to keep doing that.
Yeah, that's true.
The next section is going to be more like socializing with friends and family. Like we've said, we are currently visiting family and friends, so we are very social with them, which is very nice to see them. We haven't basically seen any close friends or family for over 10 weeks. Yeah. So we were getting a little homesick and kind of missing them, so this is definitely a great refresh.
Yeah, it's interesting because on one level, we see a lot less people in everyday life doing this. We're still trying to figure out how to make friends with people like at RV parks, you know? So that's something that we haven't really done much of. We've been more intentional talking to people on the phone than we had been in the past, but it's kind of an interesting balance because this lifestyle actually is not allowing us to see people very much in every day, which we knew, but it is allowing us to go visit people who are farther away, and then just kind of seeing them in chunks and then moving on. So we both have remote work, and that allows us to, for instance, we're still working right now on this trip. So we're kind of on vacation, but we're able to stay here for longer than we would be able to normally because we're not taking vacation days, because we're still working while we're here. So that makes a big difference. And then Cooper's family lives almost entirely in one area, and my family's all over the country, particularly in the South. So whenever we are going this winter, we're hoping to come down south and get to see people a lot more because we'll be able to be there for longer. We'll still be working. We'll still have our entire home in that area. So it's kind of interesting. On one sense, we see people less. On another sense, we get to see people who we don't see very often. So real pros, cons there.
Also, another thing that we have learned is that when you're not spending time with other people, you can spend more time with each other.
Yes.
Which I think has been really good for our relationship.
Yeah.
And we've gotten to do things we wouldn't have been able to do if we were staying in one place, which is great because we get to experience something new for the first time together, which you don't get to do a whole lot with many people. So I think it's been really good for our marriage and for our relationship, not seeing as many people actually.
Yeah.
We still miss and love our friends and family, but kind of getting this time alone to ourselves is something we didn't have before because we're very social.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a nice change of pace.
That's true. That has been really fun.
The next section we're going to be going over is the glamping part of camping, and if you know what I mean, it is going to be the storage, utilities, water tanks, dump tanks.
Yeah.
More of the actual work part of RVing than more of the fun side. In the houses we're staying in, obviously we don't have to turn on the water pump or the water heater.
Or the generator to run the lights.
Yeah, we can just do whatever we want. However, that is part of the adventure of RVing is 90% of the time, everything works really well. And you just always have that 10% in the back of your head that something's going to break, or at least I do. Every
That
time,
might be a you thing.
every time we fill up with water or turn on the water pump, there's always a little part of me that's like, okay, this is going to turn on, but there's a slight chance that it doesn't.
That's more of a factor too of the age of our RV. Like if we had a brand new RV, I don't know if you'd be quite as worried. Plus, we keep having things break.
Yeah. So, but like I said, it just adds to the adventure. It makes the everyday things a little more exciting in kind of a bad way. But also, when you fix it and it works, it's a very exciting moment.
Yeah, you think more about the fixing, and I think more, I'm in charge of the overall schedule, so we're going to be here at this time, and then we're going to go here, and also kind of give an idea of what the different activities and things are in the area, and then together we come up with what we're going to do day by day. But because of that, I'm thinking more of okay, how long do we have before we need to fill up the water again? Or I'm mostly just thinking about the fill-ups and the dumping and things like that of, do we need to take time out of this day to go do this thing, and approximately how long does that take us, and how far do we need to drive for that? So you're thinking more about things breaking, and I tend to think more about what do we need to do in our everyday schedule to make things like laundry happen, because we create a lot of laundry, and with all of our physical activities as far as working out, and then also all of our more recreational activities as far as hiking or just everyday life. So then I'm thinking more about like, when are we going to get the laundry in, and how long do we have before we need to fill up for water, and all those kinds of different things. So I don't really miss that. It's just more convenient being like, okay, I'm just going to wash the dishes and I don't have to worry about how much water I'm using and throwing the water bucket out, or how many showers can I take before we need to refill, or I don't know, all those things that we're kind of doing every day. How much laundry do we have left? When do we need to go? Is this a good laundry mat? Is it a gross one? How much does it cost? All those things. I don't really miss that so much.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess I would say I don't really miss any of that either. However, I would say I don't miss it to the point where I never want to do it again.
Right.
Like, I'm willing to work through the pains of dealing with the utilities.
I agree.
If it means we get to continue RVing. I don't think it's that much of a chore, but it does definitely require a lot more attention and detail
than it does in a house.
When you're in an RV compared to a house. Because like I said, turn on the water.
More pre-planning.
Yeah.
Overall, I think it's something that's worth doing for the benefits that we get out of it.
The last category that we're going to be covering today is overall, how do we feel about not living in the RV for a week versus living in the RV for 10 weeks? And this is unfiltered. We haven't discussed this before, so we're going to be seeing each other's first thoughts here, and I'll let Haley go first.
I would say overall, I do miss it. I mean, we've talked about some real pros and cons, but the whole purpose of RVing wasn't to live in this tiny space or to have a itsy bitsy shower or to have a water tank and a dump tank you have to think about. I mean, that's not the reason that we started RVing. That would be a really silly reason to start living in an RV, in my opinion. The whole purpose of us doing this is because our RV is on wheels and we can travel wherever we want to go, and we can bring our whole home with us, and it's not like living out of a suitcase. Whenever you live out of a suitcase in someone's home, you're also experiencing the fact that nothing around you is really yours. You're working off of their schedule more. You only have a limited amount of your items, things like that. Versus, I mean, we really take our home with us everywhere we go, and it doesn't feel like we're living out of a suitcase. There's very little things we need to unpack whenever we arrive. Set out the outdoor rug and the chairs, and you're pretty much good to go. So I love getting to travel and getting to see everything we've gotten to see, do everything we've gotten to do, and create our own schedule as we go of what that looks like, and revamp that, but as we learn more. But yeah, I would say that I do miss it, and I'm excited to get back.
Well, that's good to hear, because I also miss it. I also really enjoy driving around and traveling, getting to explore all these areas. It's also a very different type of travel.
Yeah.
Like Haley was saying, you're not living in a suitcase. Like, you bring everything you have with you. And so when you go to get clothes or when you go to cook or something like that, you don't need to unpack everything. You just take out the one thing you need and then you put it back. So the storage and the spacing did take a little time to get used to, but I think we have gotten used to it.
Yeah, I agree.
And we have a system now, and it's working very well for us. It'll probably change in the future, but it sounds like we both really like it, and I'm really glad about that.
Yeah, I agree.
So, and I think that the pro of getting to travel and go wherever we want to really remote areas, because we're in an RV, you wouldn't get to do if you were in a suitcase. Like, we stayed in the middle of Wyoming, actually in the middle of a desert for a week.
Yeah.
And there was nothing for within an hour of us, and we were okay. Like, we had power, we had water, we had Wi-Fi, we were able to work, which like if you're in a suitcase, you just don't get the luxury of doing that. So I really like that aspect of RVing, that we get to go to more remote places than most people do. And we still have each other, you know, like we have plenty of space, we have our house, and that's probably the best part of it, I would say. Well, that's everything that we are going to cover in today's video. We do have another week or so of living outside our RV, and so, I mean, we're going to enjoy it with our friends and family who we love very much, but we are looking forward to getting back and getting on the road and also making more of these videos, because it's a little different than what we normally do. So if you liked it, let us know, and maybe we'll make other life comparison videos with, I don't know, living in an apartment versus an RV or something like that in the future.
Great.
So, thanks for watching.
Have a good one.